Hello and welcome to the Left Wing Live. Well, it was billed as the defining game of the Six Nations, but Ireland have suffered their first defeat of this championship. They scored 3 tries, but they were beaten 30 points to 24 by France in a cracking game in Paris. Well, let's analyse that performance now. Cian Tracy and Dave Kelly are at the Stade de France for us. Well, Cian, what a game at the Stade de France. But ultimately, Ireland lost. What's your assessment of that Irish performance today?
Yeah, I suppose first of all, Sinead, you're right. It was an incredible game. You couldn't take your eyes off it for a second. The Six Nations was never like it always delivers. It was just, phenomenal from start to finish. I think it was polar opposite. Like when we were having this chat the same time last week, we were talking about how Ireland were winning collisions against Wales and how important that was to allow the attack to flourish. It was the polar opposite here. I really feared the worst for Ireland at halftime. They were 19-7 down. They were getting smashed back in the tackle. Got very little, momentum going. And, for all the talk of, Ireland being without Johnny Sexton, it doesn't matter who's playing out half when your pack is going backwards. France had the edge at the scrum. They were monstering the breakdown. I think Ireland would be really disappointed with their work in the ruck in particular. It's been such a key focus area for them, and I've certainly been trumping the work that Paul O'Connell has done since he's come in terms of speeding up the ruck ball. But Ireland were just so inaccurate there. Like I lost count in the number of times that France won ball back from counter ruck. So in the end, it was only a 6-point game, which was down to Ireland's dogged determination. Like 5 tries after half time, 2 tries in 5 minutes after half time really brought them back into the game. And you could feel the momentum shifting inside in the stadium. The crowd were getting on the referees back. Ireland were starting to punch holes in the defence, and you thought it was on. And it's easy to say in hindsight, but I think they'll look back at the decision on 66 minutes, and 72 minutes to go for the post and not go for the corner. And I don't even think it's the kind of one that you look back with the benefit of hindsight. I think at the time, myself and Dave were sitting beside each other, and we kind of felt like it was the time to go for the corner. Now, obviously, it proved to be probably the incorrect decision, but Ireland had lost the line out just before that as well, and those kind of inaccuracies. And I wonder, was that in James Ryan's mind when he was stepping up to make that decision, and what was huge pressure cauldron. So when Ireland were reflecting it, they'll look back, and probably is one that got away, but it was their own inaccuracies, I think, that will really, really frustrate them.
Yeah, Dave, was it a reality check today when it came to that power game? Ireland went there with a lot of confidence, but it was like we've seen this movie before with an Irish team being overpowered.
There is an element of that, but I'm not as alarmed by this defeat as I would have been by a couple of other defeats you referenced against England and France before, and obviously there was the Leinster experiences as well against Saracens and La Rochelle. As Cian alluded to, Ireland outscored France 3 tries to 2. Rarely does a team leave this place having outscored their home side in terms of dotting down tries, and they didn't have those chances. They didn't get another chance after that line out down here, and I see Robbie Henshaw running around in circles here, almost running the frustration out of it, because this was a chance Ireland could have taken to win and keep their Grand Slam hopes alive. So although there will be statistics and the pointy-headed pedants would point out that there were counter hooks they lost at crucial moments, a lot of the errors were fatalistically self-induced in terms of those lineouts and not resourcing some of the works. And okay, they did lose a lot of those powerful moments in contact at times, but when they did get a chance to punch holes, boy did they punch holes. Obviously Jameson Park, the biggest of them all. Matt Hansen early on with that astonishing GA style take to get Ireland back into the game. It looked as if they could be blown out of the water after 10 minutes. They looked blown out of the water at half time, but they came back again and they didn't have a chance. So I think it's a different narrative to that old story, and obviously the fact that Jonathan Sexton didn't play, I ultimately feel did not matter. There will be people who will argue that if he had been here, possibly they might have won, but I don't think that was the difference. I just think they made a couple of bad decisions. They made a couple of bad errors. Otherwise, they could have won this game. And that's the real kind of regret that was sticking their craw.
Yeah, Keane, a lot of talk, as Dave said, about the absence of Johnny Sexton in the lead up to this game. Joey Carbery, how do you feel he went?
I thought he did very, very well, Sinead. I think it goes back to my earlier point that I just made. In that first half, you could have had Dan Carter in his prime playing 10, and it wouldn't matter because the ball just wasn't there to play off. But like Joey Carbery's at his best when he's playing with a swagger, and for a guy making his first Six Nations start, he certainly had a swagger about him tonight, which I was really, really impressed with him. I thought he grew into the game. He had a lovely crossfield kick at one point. In fairness, he was trying to vary the point of attack. Ireland certainly were using different tactics to what they used last week. They really went after Melvin Jaminet in the backfield, testing him with a lot of aerial bombardment, and that was key to sort of Carbery's role, I guess, in what he was asked to do. But I thought when Ireland did get into their shape, their 1-3-2-2 shape, you could see Carbery like starting to influence the game more. And like I said, you could feel the momentum shifting here in the second half, and it's just such a pity that Ireland weren't able to push it home. Like, you know, you think back to Dan Sheehan's incredible tackle at the end, like absolutely amazing stuff. And having lost Ronan Kelleher, who was a big loss, but to be fair, you know, you talk about Joey Carbery stepping up to the mark. I thought Dan Sheehan played quite well. I think they'll be disappointed with their line out, like I said, but like these are all fixable issues. And just to maybe touch on the point about the power game, that was certainly evident throughout the first half, but I think I was encouraged by how Ireland problem solved. I think in the second half that, you know, I was certainly fearful of the 6-2 split on the bench that France had, but Ireland were well able to handle it. I think it probably said a lot about their reliance on Andrew Porter and Tadhg Furlong that they were still out there, I think, on 70, 71 minutes, whereas France essentially had a new pack well on by then. So I was encouraged by how they can the packs in the first half, but they started winning occasions. You got Diaki was getting on the ball a little bit more. So I would agree with Dave. I think it's a little bit different to maybe previous games where Ireland have been blown away. I think there was a lot to be encouraged by, purely because it was Ireland's own errors. I think that was ultimately their downfall in the end.
And Dave, Keane mentioned the line out there, and certainly the French put the pressure on in the Irish line out as well. It wasn't the well-oiled machine that we usually expect from an Irish line out.
Yeah, the line out did struggle at times. There was a lack of certainty there, and obviously that chance that they spurned late on was a killer for momentum, and it you know, it probably infused the subsequent choice to take the points because there was a lack of trust there. And that kind of like was a lot of the team, especially in the first half, and there was just a sense of anxiety about the Irish, whether it was and there was an element of that enforced by the physical pressure, suffocating against team, buttressed by that physical power. But you know, the sort of stuff that worked last week. I mean, Wales, if you look at it now in hindsight and encapsulate the first 2 weeks in the championship, Wales was effectively, despite their win today, that was kind of almost the training ground last week. It was beautiful and physical opposition presented by Wales, and when they were presented with that rush and that pressure today, they just got very anxious that the out the back stuff, that little tack shape that Keane talks about, those spillages from Doris, spillages all over the place. And the fact that France were also making as many errors, I mean, that compounds the frustration that, you know, if their skills had been intact, if their line out had been secure, you can understand a couple of scrum penalty concessions that cost them 6 points in the first half. But there was a lack of that certainty which had been carried over from the Joe Schmidt era, and now which Andy Farrell is trying to build upon and play a more expansive style. Today, we discovered that if you don't have that certainty, if you don't have those fundamental building blocks, even parity at scrum, but securing your own line-out ball, and you know, again, Keane alluded to it, like, you know, you can understand losing a physical collision at a ruck, losing a couple of counter rucks against a very strong team, but there were a couple of rucks that were really badly resourced when they were in really, really good attacking positions. So there was
Keane, Dave mentioned the word anxiety there. does that mean their mentality wasn't right going into this game?
I don't think so. I think, look, we probably haven't given France enough or any credit here. Like, they're an outstanding team. It was such a pleasure to be here, like in front of, was it 78,000 people? And, the World Cup final is going to be here next year. And it was a taste, like, for what Ireland are going to face. Like, they're playing a couple of pool games here as well. So I think there was always going to be, I don't know if anxiety is the word, but when you're up against this, like, savage French team and they're coming flying off the line at you will get a bit muddled in your thinking. But like I said, it wasn't like previous times where Ireland kind of, like, at half time, like I said, it could have got very, very ugly in the second half. But Ireland stuck to their task. I thought they were really clever in how they went about exposing the French defence, which, by the way, like, lives so close to the offside line, it's untrue. It's one of those things you can really only fully appreciate when you're at the stadium, and we're sitting here in the press box with such a good view of it. But, like, I just thought they were living on very close to for the edge. But look, you have to push the boundaries. But if you think back to Gibson Park's try, lovely little snipe. He catches Paul Willemse, who was outstanding, by the way. I mean, just a monster in the second row, disrupting Ireland's maul, disrupting the breakdown. But it was really clever to kind of shift the focus away from the big men in midfield. And I thought it was similar for Josh van der Flier's try. They dummy mauled it almost, like, not having had much joy there at all. And it was really smart play by Josh van der Flier and Caelan Darius, both peeled off the side and scored. So that's the glass half full approach, and this is what I mean about problem solving on the hoof. I think maybe in previous times, like I said, France could have run away with it in the second half, and I think back to they got a late penalty, obviously, so it could have even been much closer than 6 points in the end. And I think you'll probably agree with me, Dave. Like, we were sitting here next to each other thinking, like, if you had said to us at halftime that it was going to be a 6-point game, we might not have believed you. But I'd say the review, whenever they do it, they're obviously going to have a few days off now. They've no game next weekend, but say the review won't make for pleasant viewing, particularly the scrum and the line out, like I said. But they'll be encouraged by the fact that they're fixable issues. It wasn't that they weren't like systematic problems. They were just small tweaks here and there, and this was the test that we wanted, I think, for this Ireland team. The run of wins that they put together, obviously most of them had come at home. They're facing one of if not the best team in the world, foreign team at the moment, in their own backyard. Paris, Saturday night, full raucous crowd. So I think this experience will stand to Ireland going forward.
Dave, Keane mentioned the Josh van der Flier, Jemson Gibson Park try. What about that one by Mac Hansen, and what a response it was when Ireland went down early to the Dupont's try?
Yeah, I think we could be seeing him in Salt Hill in the summer if he fancies his chances. It was an astonishing take. It was wonderful anticipation, and we saw. The viewers may have seen at home a kind of a worm's eye view of the gap he had to thread through. There were 4 players basically from the restart of the second Jaminet kick for the penalty to put France 10-0 up, and you think they're out the gate. And Joey Carbery, who mixed his game well today, as Keane said, I thought he did reasonably well. He won tackle in Demba Bamba in the second half, which was extraordinarily brave. And it was a wonderfully floated restart, an unusual kind of restart that Ireland don't often do. Went left, and France had about 4 guys there ready for the lift, but nobody lifted a finger. They just all kind of stood. Jaminet almost kind of waited for it into the bread basket, and the timing of the run, eye on the ball, Hansen just kind of snuck through the gap like a kind of little kid escaping from a shop with a thieved candy bar, and just put it. But it was almost on his left shoulder. It wasn't kind of an Aussie rules kick or even a Gag kick. It's almost like a wonderful shimmy, and then he just danced his way to the line. And that gave Ireland a really significant boost. Now it wasn't great in a bit of defence down his wing as France scored their try in his corner.
So, Keane, just to wrap, obviously the Grand Slam's still on for France. Who knows what will happen in the Championship, and certainly Ireland are still in the Championship. So overall, how do you feel Ireland after 2 rounds now? Will they feel there's even more to come from them?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'd say there'll be a lot of battered and bruised bodies. We're here now in most of the crowd have all obviously gone home, but I spotted Ronan Kelleher was down on the pitch there with his arm in a sling, so that doesn't look great for him. Yeah, I think they will be. Like, I mean, they've Italy up next. They'll definitely welcome the break, I think, next week, just to to chill out and, like I said, recuperate from the damage that was taken tonight. But the Italy game, obviously it's a gimme. It's at home. It'll be very interesting to see how Farrell uses that if he looks to kind of deepen the squad a little bit further. But you're right. Like, France are obviously on for the Grand Slam, but the championship is still like very much on the line for Ireland. They got a losing bonus point here. Who knows how important that could be? So look, there's still plenty to play for. Like I said, there's fixable issues, is what Ireland had. Like, if we had seen a repeat of the first half and the second half in terms of Ireland just being obliterated in contact, I think I would have been seriously concerned, because, like you said, Sinead, at the very start of this chat, we've seen this movie before, but that wasn't the case. And I think, while there'd be regrets, I think when in the cold light of day, they'll be encouraged as well, because it's a bit of a cliche. Team are on a journey. It's still pretty early days in their cycle. Like, the last thing I needed to do was win Grand Slam this year, and then, like I said, we've definitely seen that movie before in 2018. So I don't think it was a wake-up call. I don't think within the squad anyone was getting ahead of themselves, despite the impressive winning run that they put together. I still think this is a work in progress under Andy Farrell, and that's no bad place to be, I think, at this stage of, I know it's like a cliche again, but like the World Cup cycle. And in fairness, like, Andy Farrell and the players have made no bones about it, that they're very much building towards this. So if you're looking at it as another step on the journey, it could prove to be hugely beneficial further down the line. Now, obviously, that's going to come as no comfort to the players now, who'll be absolutely gutted inside in the dressing room, because like wins in Paris are rare enough things, and there was one there for them tonight if a couple of things had went their way. So be a tough playing journey home tomorrow, but there's plenty of, I think, to be optimistic about the direction Ireland are heading.
Okay, Cian and Dave in Paris, thanks for joining us, and enjoy the night over there now. Well, that's it from us on the Left Wing Live. Read more reaction from Ireland's performance in Paris on independent.ie. See you soon.